I kind of wanted to say something about this, seeing though that our council's going bankrupt, apparently, but also Nottinghamshire Council as well. And what's happening is the council's having to sell loads of land off that it's got to private people for cheap. And it's looking like they're selling it off for house building, not for growing plants and crops, which is what we really want. It's starting to feel a little bit like when Gordon Brown sold all the gold off and we were in trouble, and then, the price of gold went up afterwards and the public lost out. It's like they're selling all this land off for cheap. But the thing is, the value of it is its value of asset to everyone in the area for actually what makes the area what it is visually and livably, identity-wise. And our area is right on the edge of urban spread. So, it's almost like the government have, planned for it to go bankrupt so they could sell it all off. Ironically, in the 1800s, there was a guy called Sam Copley, I think it was the 1800s, and he went to Australia. This is when they were going over to Australia, and starting companies. Have a lot of people going over to Australia after all the colonies had got established, and people were going over there. He was a barber in our area, and he went there, and apparently, he made millions and came back. But then he bought literally, he used all the money that he'd made to buy the whole area, but then he gave it away to the council. But the council's HM government, who he bought it from, was a Liberal Party guy. This John William Ramsden. It would be interesting to know what would have happened if he would have never decided to come back from Australia and stayed there, and just suddenly, that's quite a bold, dramatic thing to do. Go abroad for many years, make millions, come back and buy a whole area. I mean, you won't be able to buy a whole area for millions now. So what he must have made back then must have been the equivalent now to billions. I don't even think you could do it for billions. I mean, I don't even think the area you're talking about and now all the properties and businesses that it contains within it, I don't think you could even do it for billions. I think it would have to be it wouldn't be... I don't think that it would like Elon Musk buying Twitter. I mean, I think that, how much Elon Musk paid to buy Twitter, I think you could probably... that is a hell of a lot of money, that business Twitter. I think you could make a dint in the sort of area, or not a dint, but, I mean, they've just completely and totally changed a place by putting an industrial estate there where everyone was opposed to it, which has really dramatically ruined the area. I think, in what Twitter's worth could cover a large area, but still, I think that, what he did back then, it was all just coincidental as well. At the timing of it and what was going on, it's always almost like it was kind of set up or staged or something. If he hadn't have, bought all the land, what would have happened to the place now? And if it'd all still be privately owned, would it still all be an estate and countryside in the majority part of it, or not? But the fact is that, taking into account that, I think that, that Sam Copley, even though he claimed to be buying it for the people, right? And God knows what, if you've got a Liberal Party as opposed to the Royalist Party, I don't know what buying it for the people is, because it's just, such a strange thing to do, because you're not giving it to the people when you give it to the council, really, because it's His Majesty's government, but claiming that it was for the people, that means that the council has gone bankrupt with lands that were given and donated. And instead of looking after them for the people, what they've done is they've allowed loads of planning and building. And what's happened to our health is that people have gotten healthier and unhealthier. And then they've put people through these, KFC, McDonald's, drive-through, Subways, things, and everyone's putting weight on. And, the houses that they've allowed to build, they weren't building, Bybury Village or Tewkesbury. everything they've wanted, actually, they've got. This Barry Shearman MP, he wanted a media centre, he wanted a new university, he wanted a new sports centre. They were pushing for more and more and more and more. And they never seem happy with it. And then one of the newspaper headlines was, let's make this town a city. And then, their pride and joy, really, of the local newspaper and the council is like the Leeds Road, which they put cycle lanes on. That's their dream. They wanted to do these cycle lanes on this road, which they have orchestrated the creation of it. The Imperial Chemical Industries, now Syngenta, that road really is what they think is something good. Everywhere should look like that. But the fact is that if everywhere looked like that road, pick a road out of Birmingham. Whether you drive, towards the Spaghetti Junction, or whether you drive towards the airport, out towards Solihull, or down the A38. Pick any of those roads out of Birmingham. They're all complete total urban sprawl. Even it's a little bit like the story of Cadbury Village, really. And now that all what's left is that, the house at the factory, but all, it's so. I don't know what Nottinghamshire Council are doing, because what they did at Nottinghamshire with those caves, those really, really ancient prehistoric caves in the centre of Nottingham, but they'd already jumped on that, hadn't they, with Nottingham Castle was built on and around there, established around there. And then I wanted to say something about the trip to Jerusalem pub. The Ye trip to Jerusalem pub is meant to be one of the oldest pubs in England. But interestingly, it's called the Ye Trip to Jerusalem. Obviously it signifies, the Crusades, which were around the time of Robin Hood and, King Richard and the Sheriff of Nottingham and so forth. And the interesting thing is that, before the Romans invaded, we didn't even have the Christian religion. Not as we know it. And it wasn't anywhere near, it was outlawed in Rome. So, all these crusades, everyone coming under the Christian religion and crusades. Interesting that pub is also built into that complex as well. The old trip to Jerusalem, kind of into the rock of Nottingham Rock. In fact, that's where I went to the solicitors, actually, last time I was in court. Who didn't really do a very good job. You got a lot of prehistoric area around the river and so forth for Nottingham, which has kind of been spoiled in a way. It's lucky that, the Sherwood Forest, the tree isn't surrounded by, buildings and we're just a tree in the centre. That's been preserved. They're putting as much effort into preserving that as they are into that Darwin oak. Unfortunately, that sycamore tree on the Hadrian's Wall didn't get as much protection. But, so the thing is that trip to Jerusalem's quite ironic with the whole flag, when we adopted the St. George's, the cross, and the whole kind of relationship between, the Middle East and England and those religions. But before that, the interesting thing about the old trip to Jerusalem is it makes it sound like some religious pilgrimage, some very ancient, old, mysterious religious pilgrimage or something, but yet it's a pub going for a drink to get drunk. The funny thing is that if you watch the Howard Crowhurst videos on YouTube about Stonehenge and all the mathematics and calculations and the ancient cultures, which were 1,000 years even before the ancient Greeks, that it was actually, England, where they used to come on pilgrimages and religious trips to England, and particularly to Stonehenge, like the Temple of Apollo, the Temple of the Sun. Even Caesar wrote about them coming, pilgrimage, actually religious experiences here, Now, if they were going other places before that, to Sila de Niger in the middle of Algeria in caves or whatever, I don't know. Well, we do know they were, but the thing is that it's suggestive that some of the ancient sites in Britain are actually as old, if not older than those, because those Tassili cave art drawings are only meant to be 5,000 or 10,000 year old. And some of the prehistoric history in our island is meant to go back further or as far. So, it's ironic that, to say that we had a prehistory and an ancient mysterious religion, way, way older than even when Christianity took off over there, and even when even we adopted it over here, but yet the oldest pub in England, the most ancient pub in this prehistoric rock, is, like the trip to Jerusalem, although maybe it signifies some sort of hybrid melding of the cultures. It's more of a ceremony to that, which it doesn't really get the recognition for, that being called the old trip to Jerusalem. It's almost kind of like a medieval or very, very old medieval version, maybe of something like Priti Patel, Suella Braverman or something, or even Sunak, with all due respect. But if that's the case, and it's built into there, then surely it's ironic that, these ministers are raising all these racism problems and having to bring in new legislation, and we have to accept all these immigrants and so forth, when it seems they're quite well accepted to the extent that they're built into the Rock of Nottingham. We've even got a pub, the oldest pub in England, and which is quite ironic, seeing though that, not a lot of them don't even drink or believe in alcohol. That's meant to be the religious pilgrimage back to the homeland. Although, it could actually be the fact that it is in the homeland itself, but it's not much of a homeland now, being in the centre of Nottingham city centre. We're past holding on with the skin the skin of his teeth there. Now, what I wanted to say is my friend has been to this Harry Potter world. I think it's in Kent. I was looking at it a few years ago, but they've just been. Now, the whole thing with Harry Potter is that, this J.K. Rowling, who, has literally become, one of the richest women in the world out of it, apparently had more money than the Queen or whatever. I don't know the exact figures. But, J.K. Rowling, it's her creation and invention. The thing with the movies is that those films and movies, they create this kind of like theme, this whole, old world, villages and towns and the whole, but it's in the private schoolboy peerage world, the Boris Johnson, David Cameron world, ironically written by a woman in a flat from Edinburgh, and the thing is, I don't find anything wrong with those buildings or places or world, the themes of it. But the thing is, the real world now that's happening is not the belief. I don't think that J.K. Rowling's vision is the vision of Winchester College Rishi Sunak or Boris Johnson or David Cameron or Rees-Mogg, because they're all now really wanting to do this whole Moderna thing, like everything go modern, whether you like it or not, pushing Moderna on us and Starmer with his powerhouses. There was even an incentive on that in the war, in World War II. They got, the Germans had got all these new designs and furniture and all these new, this new industry. And a lot of people, both in Germany and England, were quite happy just, chilling, relaxing, peaceful life. And a lot of this innovative design movement wanted to go Moderna, even back then, like the 1920s Moderna, 1930s Moderna, right? We're going Moderna. And if there was a big party of liberals and people who didn't want to do that, how can you get them to do it? You'll do as we say. Well, it's more than a coincidence that World War II conveniently bombed both countries to oblivion, particularly in places like Plymouth, so they could completely rebuild and develop it. And someone made money out of that. And a lot of the people were sent to kill each other off, let alone, we're not talking about lining, people up in the gas chambers that happen to be modern shaped on ancient Irish and Northern European ancient sites, we're which is quite intimidating, really. And then they want everyone, the sound, the siren, hear the sirens, the bells, run into your shelters, into your cubicles, into your, get into your bloody temples and chambers now with your ancient ancestors, Be scared. Get into your ancient chambers and be feared in the unknown while the planes come over and bomb random places, and they'll make a lot of money out of it. We will all be making milk now, butter, milk, cornflakes, what about nettles, raises my testosterone, what about all the calcium, stop my bones going crooked like Yoda grandma. Well, no, none of that nettle rubbish. We're making camouflage netting out of that, for the war. Oh, are we? Yes, don't want to be getting that into your cans of tins of beans and mixing it with, tomato soup and savoury, spices from the exotic far trip to the old Jerusalem, So, I mean, the war was so conveniently, mid 1900s version of, let's go Moderna afterwards, after you clean up the mess, which is kind of what's happening in Ukraine now. And everyone's been a bit savvy now, particularly with Russia, when it's not only go Moderna, it's like, we think the whole world should be like China. Everyone should be obedient, have social points ratings, do what the MPs think are best. How many points have you got on the internet? What score have you got? You're not a name, you're a number. You're a points, people are not point systems. I'm actually a person with a name and a character, not a number and a graph and a statistic. And trying to draw it back to the point of, these buildings and houses, this visitors centre, I know that, they've got limited funds for it, but it rakes in a hell of a lot of money, this visitors centre. It shifts so much Harry Potter produce. And remember, it made her one of the richest women in the world, right? The ironic thing about it is that the photographs that my friends got of this, hold on, I don't really want to show any pictures of my friend because these are my friend's photos, but I'll just try to show the ones that, don't actually feature anyone in them. It's very odd. They've got all of the caricatures in here are like faceless mannequins, right? And it's meant to be, all the guests are meant to think it's fabulous because, these are the actual clothes that were in the film. These are the actual clothing. This is the actual robes from the movie, the actual costumes, almost like, from Doctor Who or, 007 or whatever. This is the actual set props and scenes. But, they could have at least put, some proper, with how much money they're raking in from it, could have been a little bit like Madame Tussauds, doesn't Harry Potter get a replica of himself that's, as good as any replica of, Prince William, or Prince Harry, even though the Charles ones were getting cream-pied by Just Stop Oil. It's very odd with these faceless mannequins, and the fact that it's all indoors. It's all inside this big warehouse under a cover, but you get to see the old things. Now, I don't think this is necessarily in J.K. Rowling's... I don't think J.K. Rowling sat down and thought this out, but I think it's something that J.K. Rowling's overlooked, and she's kind of like being guided like the kind of like Lisa Simpson, Madam, not quite, airy in the hairy sort of thing. Not quite aloof, not quite savvy. Because I think that this whole place, people will see the Harry Potter film and will think it's brilliant. We like old worldy things. We like, traditional things. But that isn't the way that the MPs are wanting to go. They're wanting to go Moderna. So, if you had a strategist, when people watch the film, that's what they like, but that's not really how they want the world to go. We can't have all these, Oxford, private school kids. Even them, they're being sold out on Moderna as well, really. They're having 15-minute cities forced on them in Oxford and so forth. This really is like, once you see all these things and you get used to being undercover, in this canopy, in this warehouse, you might as well be in the metaverse. And then you've got all these barriers in front of you, these metal barriers here, right? Then you think, well, I can't touch these things, I can't walk up to them or interact with them, there's these metal barriers here. And then it makes you kind of think, well, if it was the metaverse goggles, then you could actually do that, you'd take the barriers down. But then you wouldn't even really be there in real life, it would all be pretend, like some sort of holodeck or, laser quest sort of thing or something like that, So, I really think that it's trying to devalue these things, and I don't think J.K. Rowling quite gets it. It's actually devaluing. It's trying to get the whole world that J.K. Rowling liked and promoted in the movies, and trying to get people to go there and kind of think, maybe I might as well be in the metaverse, or it's not actually that good. But what I think also as well, and the thing that they're trying to push these androids on us, they're trying to push all these, android nurses and the new technology, when these faceless mannequins, as if, these people are old-fashioned, out with the old, in with the new. Once, the Tories get their new genetic engineering on everyone, then, it won't matter what everyone used to look like in the olden days, Even some of they've got old chemistry labs like this, which, were very, very useful at the time, but obviously now everything is done abroad. Or in these non-profit labs that we don't know about. Look at all these products that are for sale. All these wands, all these Harry Potter wands they've got. Amount of money they're raking in from all these products, right? And, someone's making profits out of this. It just don't keep that. Obviously that place has been built now and it's there in place. They've got bills, but they're making profits on top of it. What actually gets me is that all these councils are going bankrupt. I want to take it back to that council bankruptcy, Nottingham Council and our council and other councils are going bankrupt, and they're having to sell off all the assets, all the nice, beautiful fields, all the places, all the land, and all the Moderna developers are coming in, right? When one person came and bought the whole place, or could have bought the whole place, and had it all like Harry Potter. Sam Copley could have come back from Australia and said, "Oh, I'll have this whole area as a big studio, or whatever." But no, now that gift that was given to the council is having to be sold off to private people who are going to go massacre it with God knows what. When they could be making money out of crops. Why are they, these people are selling Harry Potter wands, right? And making millions. Why aren't they why aren't people wanting to, I'll grow some crops, I'll grow some plants? Why are they saying, I want to build houses, I want to build houses, I want to build houses all the time, when it's actually making the area into solid urban block, and I've got a feeling they're wanting to try and just get everyone to go along with this metaverse idea. If you want to experience the old times in Harry Potter, you'll have to go to the metaverse, Even here, even there, when they've got that street, beautiful old-fashioned street, but why not actually go to York? Why not go to, Uppingham or Tewkesbury, or Exeter, or, you can't even go to Plymouth anymore because it got bombed, or Cambridge, or even Oxford, it's kind of like, why make something that's pretending a studio when all this money being made could be there to maintain and keep it? But this is the thing. They're wanting to put it in the studio, or I say hypothetically in the metaverse. And I think that's what all this roofing over the top's about, and all the faceless people. You might as well be talking to, avatars or whatever, ghosts, figments. And all these barriers, you can't actually touch it. What these barriers are making you, I know they've got to try and keep it in good condition, but surely, if you can have a real street that someone's going down, and it not get shabby from people interacting with it, what's the point in having this? All these barriers there, it's like you can't touch it. There's a barrier, and then it makes you think, oh, if there was no barrier there, I could interact with it. Just don't worry. Here's Mark Zuckerberg. Just slip on your Meta goggles, and there's no metal barrier there. You walk into the shop. Well, it's not real though. Well, this one's not real. The amount of money they're making from these wand sales and all these products could be actually keeping the shops open in the shops. But then again, if you think of Los Angeles, all the fancy shops in Los Angeles, they've all shut down and they've all been boarded up because of Jeff Bezos, basically. Now, Jeff Bezos and his culture, his legacy, has all those business owners, Gucci and all these big companies. They haven't gone bust. They're selling their products online through Bezos, but people don't go to shops anymore. I don't even think Noel Gallagher or none of the celebrities go to shops, because even the celebrities like Elton John used to go to shops, but now they just go online. They and if they don't like it, they send it back. Shopping's like yesterday's news. They don't want to go to these places. So and in Los Angeles, Jeff Bezos has literally shut down high streets, and it's interesting calling it Wall Street when it's bankrupt. I mean, I know Wall Street's in New York, but literally a walled street of brick house, solid companies which have just gone bankrupt, and it's to say it represents money in America. It's not Wall Street, is it? It's Shambles Street. And why is that? Because no one goes there anymore, because people just shop online, right? And all of the buildings are there. Apparently, RFK saying they're all boarded up and shut down, right? So why haven't they gone to homeless people? Why haven't they made them all into apartments and flats for homeless people? Because they don't want to. Because they don't care about the people. And that's really, I think, Bezos' legacy. He has transferred, he's actually, all the companies that he's making money out of, he's shut them all down from the high street. They've continued making money, but he's making even more money. It's like they channel their power into him, and all their premises and shops and everything that they had have kind of gone bust. But then instead of going to people to live in, those people have been kicked out on the streets, and they're just all shut down and boarded up. I mean, you might as well build. You could have literally built. You might as well just. I mean, you could literally have the entire Tewkesbury village, and give it to homeless people from Los Angeles and say, oh, would you like a Victorian style, house to live in? It's very beautiful and pretty in England, but what we're going to make money out of? Well, you don't have to make money out of it, because I've made all the money and I can pay for it now because I've got trillions, But I mean, even if you don't like this style, still, I mean, even if they're modern flats, it's easy to see what's actually happened. Everywhere's actually, the buildings and the premises have had the life sucked out of them. And then Bezos has made himself extremely powerful while his subsidiaries, his suppliers have kept their wealth at home. And none of that wealth has gone to any of the people. In fact, even their own premises, the business premises that they've bought, are still there and all run down. They haven't actually made any use out of them for anyone. And then they're saying that, these people are going to own everyone else's homes as well. It's all wrong. I think that where these wars are orchestrated by these people behind the scenes, and they're using them as they're using the wars like they used World War II. I'm not saying that the German and English were like meeting in secret and shaking hands and kissing each other on the cheek, but there was definitely an intellectual understanding, right? I think they had objectives like, okay, we like these new Bauhaus things. We like all this. People aren't really that keen on it. They don't want to, work in factories like rodents on rat wheels. Well, look, like I think that the whole Churchill culture and the Queen, which apparently now it's been proved that Churchill started bombing in the war, started it off. I think that, and George Galloway won't like this hypothesis, but I think that, effectively they said, right, this is what we're doing, whether you like it or not. We're going to make you do it, and you're going to, if you don't, we're going to have you cowering in bomb shelters. We're going to have you, running from air raid sirens and buzzers, and we're going to even have you killing each other. And I think the whole Jews, I totally believe in the whole, Jew thing. I don't deny it at all. But I think that was something that had to be done to justify the rest of it, and make something had to be worse than what they were going through with the war. I mean, look, you can, pick your weapons up and go fight and have half a chance at each other. It's almost like cockfighting, it's at least if you're two cocks in a pub attic, being put in a cockfight, or even two bulldogs being put into a fight, at least you've got a chance against each other, unless you've been handicapped. But with I wanted to make a video out of Churchill's speech, a little edit out of it. We'll fight in the hills. But when you say the hills, like the model the gas chambers on the hills, the Germans shaped the gas chambers like the Newgrange and Nof and Dof. They shaped them like the hill mounds, and they put them in there to die. Almost like symbolically, the ancestors or whatever. But it's when he says it's not just that we'll fight in the hills, because like none of the Jews fought when they were put inside those kind of like Nof and Newgrange shaped gas chambers. None of them fought in there. They didn't fight in there. They just lined up and went straight in there. Gullible, deceived, tricked, lied to, duped. They didn't fight. That was the problem. None of them fought unless they got mowed down and shot machine guns. Now, and another thing that he says, with growing confidence in the air, right? Well, they didn't have any confidence, did they? Unfortunately, for the Jews, which I'm actually sticking up for them in this video, they didn't have any confidence, did they? They didn't have any confidence to fight, to run away, to do anything. They just lined up and, obeyed, So there's some irony in Churchill's speech, and I really challenge George Galloway on that, because if George Galloway wants to, pat Churchill on the back and go, good show, old lad, we'll fight with growing confidence in the air, I'd like to see George Galloway turn up at, Auschwitz or wherever it is, and there's a line of poor Jews lining up for gas chamber. God bless their souls. And, I'd love to see Galloway with his old-fashioned microphone. Come on now, Jews, will growing confidence in the air. No confidence around here, George. And fight in the hills. Oh, that's where they're going to go to sleep, George, in the hills. There could be any fighting in there. It was quite ironic, that speech. And at that stage, I don't know if many people actually knew what was going on over there or not, or if it was used to scare people. I think that the aristocracy wanted to, people didn't want, like us now, basically. A lot of us don't want these ID cards, although we've got the phones and we're stuck with the phones. A lot of us don't want these ads on the phones. A lot of us don't want these security cameras. A lot of us don't want to be spied and listened into when we're in the jungle, like Ant and Dec. A lot of us don't want life to be like a directed film or Orwellian film movie. And I think that there was something at the time there that people, weren't actually that keen on. And I think that they said, right, you're having it. And what I think that the leaders of both sides understood that Germany wanted it wanted industry, and it had a lot of people who were just kind of happy, just chilling. And same here as well. And I think that they said, right, if you're not going to do it, you're going to, because all through the 1920s there was a lot of liberalism. I think that. I'm not saying that, I don't think that they were like, in absolute complete, best bum buddies, these two countries, but there's so many connections of the Mountbattens to our royal family and so forth that they just wanted a world change. They wanted to, literally what Sunak's doing with his whole, the wording of Moderna, the symbology and meaning of Moderna and the factory and so forth, and it's like they want it, The people are, and also a lot of people are trying to sell it through the companies and businesses. They sold us all the McDonald's, they sold us the Burger King, and we bought it. And where's it got us? And I don't think that we had that insight or evaluation. I think a similar thing probably happened in the Civil War when they went around stealing. People didn't want to pay up to the government, and what ended up happening is everywhere got raided by soldiers of either side. So they ended up looting and stealing a lot of things when they didn't want to pay the taxes, and it went somewhere. Not everyone got the stuff back, and I think there's something in that. And I don't think they clicked on with it. I think they always do it. I think that it's probably on that level with the Roman invasion as well. Why did it take an entire Roman army of state-of-the-art soldiers with state-of-the-art military, paraphernalia, boats, ships, in order to conquer England? At least they needed, legions. Then suddenly, it's almost like, William the Conqueror rocks up on the beach, and as, and literally, what wins one battle, and then apparently England's is. It's hardly the Roman conquest, is it? They don't talk about, what happened after William the Conqueror, how it happened, so there's also something in that Domesday Book, which I'm going to go into in another video, about the account in the Domesday Book and the account in the taking of the accounts of, of England, putting into a ledger, allegiance to getting the ledgers, the ledgers of all the accounts of England, and as it's the allegiance to William the Conqueror at the same time. And there's something in that I need to make another video of, but I think that there's really an it's the word progress. Progress and profit seem to go together, because wherever there's progress, there seems to be profits. And wherever there's profits, there's progress, but only progress for the people who are making profits. There doesn't ever seem to be much progress for the people who aren't making profits. And the thing is, what is progress for those people? Well, the thing is, if you get this is the thing that you want to challenge George Galloway on, and, Barry Shearman. If you get, the Sheriff of Nottingham, from, whenever, I don't think if you pick out, someone on the dole from, Solihull, right, living in a block of flats, if they suddenly got magicked into, the aristocratic life of a 16th century, lord, I don't think that they would say that they hadn't made progress. I really don't. I don't think, there might be certain diseases going around, the clothes might not be quite the same, but I really believe that if no disrespect to anyone in Solihull in a block of flats, but who's on the dole, but I'm sure that if they suddenly magically appeared, in the 16th century or 15th century, and started, suddenly magicked into, an aristocratic, castle or something, I'm sure that it might be a little bit more dangerous, but, so what? It might be a little bit more dangerous, but now they're saying it's dangerous now. They're saying that they're trying to claim that it's dangerous. So what progress is there? I actually don't think that it is progress, because all of the foods they've been making haven't been healthy for us. And people have lost a lot of skills that people could do. All the skills have been taken from us. We had so many skills and a lot of practical skills that have been taken away. There is a very, very wide expansion of knowledge and understanding, but in a limited number of people. And when common people, when normal people get hold of knowledge and information, like, YouTube, they get hold of the law, they learn that MPs shouldn't be doing this, they learn that we've got these rights, they learn how to make these things, then suddenly they take it off you, you can't, that knowledge, we're removing those acts of law. The thing with Rishi Sunak and his aristocracy, his private school creed, is that they seem to like taking candy from babies. Every time you've got something that's good for us, right, they go, oh, no, we will take that from you. You can't have that. Every time you get knowledge to defend yourself or put them to account, oh, no, you can't have that. We'll take that away from you, And every time, no matter what it is that we have, They always seem to want to take it away from us, and they always seem to benefit or have something. It's their profit and their progress all the time, the whole way through. And in order to also maintain that, they need to always be developing new technologies, new things, making this progress. And they're getting more and more specialists. And actually, what they've worked out is that it's not a good idea to have too many clever people around, because it's dangerous to have clever people. They want a very small number of clever people who are very allied, pledged allegiance, trustworthy, with the knowledge of the androids and the robots, to a select few who can program everything. And then we can't even be trusted to reverse a car backwards. We can't even be trusted to know where we are on the bus when it's time to get off. We can't be trusted, to control ourselves when we're eating food that they've been advertising and pushing us on. It's, for all the technological advancements, the CD players, the music, the ghetto blasters, the mixed movie screen or whatever, you've still got people now. MPs like to go walk in Hadrian's Wall. MPs like to go on holiday to Iceland and sit in a spring. MPs like to go on marathon runs. MPs like my uncle like to go in the jungle with Ant and Dec, as long as everyone's filming them through state-of-the-art cameras, but they're still set in a jungle. I think that the whole Moderna thing is a con. Now, true, the helicopter's useful, so is a rocket ship, so is a satellite, and so is a mobile phone, but I don't think that my mobile phone has really brought me anything that I really wanted into my life. It promised the whole time, but I've actually never found it or achieved it. And I don't think that those people aren't out there or those places aren't out there. They are. But something's been preventing me from getting there and getting with the people. And the thing is that those people, in turn, are always distracted by other things. And it's this big distraction, this big, they've got priorities. Like, it's and Dec's my priority on a Saturday night. Joe Brand is my priority. It's my priority to be in the audience, with Graham Norton pulling a lever on people in a chair, probably like pulling the chair on your best friends, forget them, come and see Graham Norton, grovel at Graham Norton, pulling the lever on the chair, this is it. I think that these people are prepared to kill us all. I think they are, like in World War II, and they can't get away with it quite the same way now. I'm not saying that, the Senator Kennedy or any of these Josh Hawley or these senators in America are sat there plotting, going, we're going to get the people. But some of them aren't savvy. Some of them are savvy. Some of them aren't savvy. Some of them are really, really honest and they believe in democracy and so forth and the law. But some of them, they don't believe that there is a certain elite that actually... just all you have to do to see what people care about and who people care about, all you need to do is look at where their attention is. Now, if your attention is on Graham Norton every fucking Thursday at 8 o'clock, and then, David Attenborough on a Tuesday and so forth, and even Chris Packham, even though he's against all this, that's where your priorities are. With, 3 people, my priorities are with Graham Norton, Chris Packham, and I'm not knocking Chris Packham, and, that's it. Your priorities aren't with, the people in the village or, your friends, your family, particularly when your friends and family have been corrupted by all the addictions that they're pumping out. My priorities are sitting in front of the cinema watching Arnold Schwarzenegger save the world, Well, why don't you come and sign this petition and help me do some protesting and save all these, our beautiful neighbourhood? Oh, no, I'll watch Arnold Schwarzenegger do it, pretend, not going to do it in real life. This is the thing with these private schoolboy pricks, they're all into democracy because they're really doing it. They're the 007 heroes with the gadget phone and, Tony Blair, Agent Blair. Now you're going over to Japan to dupe, but it's not quite, he's not up against Blofeld when, Tony Blair rocks up with the full discreet 77th Brigade behind him at the mobile phone, making sure that, he didn't say anything out of place, by the way, as well. Training the governments how to do politics politics. We've got to train these governments how to run their countries. You've got to train these Arabs how to invest their banking money. And for the future, for the Moderna future, all the mechanisms of implementation. Now we've all got the digital ID on their mobile phone. All the cameras are in place. Light, camera, and action. This is it. Now we're locked, the police, now every single thing you do and say is being, facial ID and recorded on a central computer, and your car transforms into, Optimus Police and comes into your house and arrests you. If your house hasn't already arrested you itself, automatically lock the doors. We need to stop this. I think there's a right, even if I'm not, I won't mind, but I'm not stopping, Geekoid from, being tech wizard. He can do what he wants. But if a village wants to remain a village and is happy, right, it should be protected, and it should be protected from the influencers, the council going bankrupt and trying to sell it off any way they can, any which way they can. Boris Johnson's selling the gold off, or it's Keir Starmer saying, oh no, well, you'll have to give up these fields whether you like it or not. We need protecting from these people. Some people are happy with their lot and the village without it being corrupted and lured by the greed and the lure of these other business and companies or for profit. If they weren't making a profit out of it, they wouldn't be pushing it so hard. That's the thing. Now, if they weren't making a profit out of it, and this is the whole thing behind Jeremy Corbyn with his, public ownership, then all the power and everything, people would have, spare money and be doing charitable things to their neighbours voluntarily, like Rishi Sunak's going to give bacon sandwiches out for poor people. Well, you don't need to give it to Camelot. If every village, had spare cash and alms for the poor, then they'd be voluntarily doing it themselves and people would be grateful for it. But then you wouldn't have any poor people and you wouldn't need to do that charity. There would be less charities. The thing with World War II is they didn't want people eating, even making the spiciest, quiche or soup or whatever it is and being healthy. They wanted to push it and extort money out of everyone. And I just don't believe that the tech makes certain required progress, but that certain required progress isn't absolutely necessary for everyone. And at the end of the day, family, all the skills that people used to have, multiple skills, are putting people to shame now. Some people are having trouble working out how to work the Apple, pad. We are being turned into morons, and that's the problem. This is part of it. All this, all the money they're raking out of it for this fake facade. When really there's no money in having these places for them, because firstly, Jeff Bezos has put all these companies out of business, so no one's buying Harry Potter ones from shops in Tewkesbury because they're all buying them on Amazon, right? So if there's no need for these shops there, and if they're not letting people live in them, and even I wouldn't mind living in a house that looks like a Harry Potter 1 shop, it'd be pretty cool. Anyone in Los Angeles sleeping on the pavement? There's a house going in Tewkesbury that looks just like Harry Potter 1 shop. You can have it for free because they don't need it anymore. No one's going in there and buying any Harry Potter 1s. They're all buying them from the Pretend Centre or from Jeff Bezos. And watch, Jeff Bezos will wave his magic wand with Rob F. Kennedy and, 150 people from the streets of LA, Bruce, Bruce, isn't it? When we were born to run, no, it's almost like that, Why ain't Jeff Bezos going, it's like National Lottery, Camelot, but it's Bezos's lot. Tell you what, 5 lucky winners can win a house in Tewkesbury 1 shop. In fact, you invite your friends over there. You can fit, a family of 3 homeless Los Angeles people in a Tewkesbury one shop, rather than having them empty and run down and shut down, but then who run them down? I think that their plan is to demolish it all and try and coerce people to just enjoy it in the metaverse and destroy the real thing, which is why the studio thing, the whole faceless barrier thing, it doesn't make sense, because all the money that's going into it and the sales there, these councils are going bankrupt, but these councils could have been maintaining these places, Why hasn't every council got a Harry Potter one shop, on its cultural quarter, on its historic quarter? Our town has got at least one street with at least one row still, thankfully, that's got shops like that. I mean, why ain't our council got itself a Harry Potter one shop? It could probably keep itself going. But no, it's only you have to go all the way to Kent to the home-based depot like this with the fake snowballs, or through Jeff. Jeff's actually, what he's doing is, it's almost like Sam Copley. Instead of like Sam Copley going to Australia and making loads of money, then coming back and buying everywhere, which was one landowner, what's happened is everyone's sold out to Jeff, and everyone's kind of like given away or thrown away their premises, and they've gone derelict because they don't need them anymore. And they've still made money, and Jeff's made money out of people, but all the actual frontages, what made the town the place, is all gone now. And I think that that's what they want, because what they're going to do is they're just going to demolish it. And then you've got all these, mysterious deaths that, Campbell's talking about, and the government have actually started having to talk about it now. If people continue like that, then I think that what Starmer wants to do is build all these new powerhouses, which actually, if you've seen some of the designs of them, they suck, they're crap. They're rubbish. They're terrible. They are absolute tosh. They're just not nice houses at all. And then everywhere else, they'll demolish it. It's like, what happened to the people of Los Angeles on the streets with all the rundown shops. Demolish it all and they can all fuck off, because, no one gives a fuck about them. They're even stopping them sitting on park benches now. They don't even want them to have anywhere to sit. And that's really what's kind of happening with this country. Plus, they've got the immigrants coming in, more crime. Rather than being able to solve these problems and work it out, we've got more crime. But then Sunak's pretending, I care about these people. Have a bacon sandwich, It's like one foot in the grave. I couldn't have another one. I couldn't have another butty. Couldn't have another bacon butty. But go on then, Richelle, have another one. They don't care about them. They say they do. They say they do. They say it, but they don't. It's like Mog. Even on Stop ULEZ now, they're like, Rees Mogg, because, they're all opposed to the Sunak. They're all opposed to Khan, the Mayor Khan in London, because of ULEZ. So, it's almost like Rees Mogg, here I come to save the day, Rees Mogg, come vote Tory. Yeah, but he's lying out of his teeth. He's not saving poor people. Is he? Because, Mogg's got investments in companies that, Bezos are involved in, shops running down and shut down. Mogg's, people know Mogg for this caricature who's meant to be this sort of, he's like an old Victorian man out of a period drama. Yes, but I think he's more like, he's in the GBTV studio. I think Rees Mogg's more like a mannequin from the set of this Harry Potter studio than he is from a real person on the streets of Tewkesbury, He's almost like, he might as well be Madame Tussauds, laid out on the bench at Parliament, version of a wax model of him laid out on the bench at Tussauds. The guy's on there illegally, unlawfully. And whether or not he can be prosecuted by Parliament or not, impeached, is different to the fact that, they should drag him off there, whether he's prosecuted or not. Dragging him off there is different to prosecuting him. Blocking a building off, the police cordoning off a building and saying, no MPs can go in this building is different to him prosecuting the police, It's almost like holding protesters off at HS2 who are trying to save trees. Get Mogg off. Someone, like that guy turned up when Mogg was on there at Tufton Street at, the National Conservatism You know, I'd like to see someone using political rights, or even the police using policing law, the act, that says that he can't be on there. I'd like to see, with Tony Blair, citizen's arrest. I'd love to see someone go and go arrest Mog while he's live on TV. That last nearly did. There was a girl on there. There was a girl on there who was literally, she might as well have arrested him. She wasn't far off arresting him. She called him out on everything else. It would be quite funny if someone was sat in an interview with Mog on GB News to just slap the handcuffs on him and say, Mog, you're under arrest, and not go in there with the key. That would be quite funny to see on camera, and read him read out on the from the legislation, from the act. It could be like, you could say, Rees Mogg, I'm removing you from this television programme, you're not supposed to be on here, and then I will release you after we've exited the building or whatever. That would be funny. It's a shame the police aren't doing it. It's a shame the police aren't doing it. If they were ever going to do something useful, like, they could have been turning up with Ant and Dec when Matt Hancock's there, get him off camera. He's promoting himself. He's an MP, he's self-promoting, he's clearly self-promoting himself. They should have dropped in 77th Brigade to get him off TV, but they liked it because that party's in government and that party wants to win elections, unfortunately, and it's now breaking the law. Because instead of having allegiance to the electors and having allegiance to the country and running the country, they've got allegiance to their own political party, which, it's not a judicial oath and it's not a MP oath, not for the people. If you were going to have an MP who has an allegiance to a party and not his, all of the people who didn't elect them haven't got an MP. They don't have a representative member of parliament, and this is why political parties are rubbish, really. And this is why I don't think there was any difference between Labour and Tories now as any difference to Germany or England in the war. I think that the differences between Germany and England in the war were probably about the same as the differences between Tory and Labour now. And, they've got only certain agreements, but there's a certain plan they're doing with ID cards, surveillance and so forth that they want, and we're having to fight very strongly for it. And I think that's what happened in the war. They wanted to modernise, and everywhere had to get bombed, and, they shocked us. They put us in shelters, put us under bombing and so forth, even sent us at each other. And I don't really think that many of his grandparents or soldiers knew exactly what was going on. I think that people aren't savvy to it. They're not suspicious enough. And I think that's the problem. You've got a lot of gullible people. And I think, I think that it happened. I think that that's what happened in the Civil War, because no one wanted to pay taxes. So if no one's paying taxes and the king gets pissed off, then I reckon that him and the Lords would just say, right, well, we're just going to take it, and got annoyed with them. And I think that's what happened. I think that they've ransacked everywhere. I think there was a civil war. I think there were some agreements, but I think that they thought it was convenient, almost kind of like a controlled explosion, like a controlled explosion in a way. And I think that that's what's happening now with Russia, the thing, I wanted to show a picture of them in China when they're all marching with, they're all like, turning their heads sideways. You see them in China when there's all those women in the military uniforms turning their heads to the left and marching in exact synchronicity like they're wind-up toy soldiers. They're really proud of that. They really like that. I don't know why they all want to be like these, obedient radio-controlled culture with this point system. There's something not right about it. The thing is, Russia's a world global force, but they didn't do that. Notice that what happened in Russia when, the war was going to kick off, they didn't all, salute. They were a bit pissed off. And a lot of them left. A large number of them left Russia. They said, no, we're not going to do it. And they left. So I don't think Russia is quite like China, because they don't all want to just be saluting bots, I know there's other people who have got a lot more insight and a lot more specific knowledge about it all, but I still generally think that I think that a lot of people are duped a lot of the time, and a lot of people don't know the facts. Even people who know a lot of facts don't know other facts, I still think that it was generally the aristocracies who stir trouble. and send us at each other and give us reason to do that. In the continual struggle for more and more power and control, really, through technology. They use technology for control rather than using it for happiness and contentment and sharing. And we know that by the bank account balances, They're at the pinnacle of technology now. And the best Rishi Sunak can do is rock up and give bacon sandwiches out to tramps, Yet Jeff Bezos, who is prime, advocate is, he ought to be giving Jeff Bezos a medal, for how good he is at business. Rishi Sunak must think Jeff Bezos is the most intelligent man on the planet, save for his wife, because he's a genius. Yet his genius has, shut down the entire, enterprise front of the city into shambles, and everyone's homeless. Put two and two together. Where should these people be? Oh, in these houses. This is it. Oh, look, there's Rishi Sunak in there in Los Angeles. Like this used to be Harrods in Los Angeles, but here's Rishi Sunak giving bacon sandwiches out to homeless people, and they're saying, "Oh, come in. We've converted it into a block of flats." I don't see that. Where's Rishi Sunak turning up in LA with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., saying, it's the British government, we've given them a grant, we're turning all these shops into, houses, come on inside, this is it. So, get your Harry Potter ones and stick them where the sun don't shine.